Sustainability, consistency, continuity. Those are the three big things that showed up big in wildcard weekend. All these teams have had 17 games to show you what they are. Yet, come the postseason, some believe it all goes out the window. If a team has a great pass rush, they maintain a great pass rush. If a team has a top three quarterback, he's not going to fade into the background. If a team struggles to play full 4 quarters of football, they might struggle in the second half again. I didn't pick these games this week out of chance. I saw what the matchups presented and what these teams have shown me all year. Nobody is going to have postseason success by chance. The representatives of the NFC and AFC this year will be the best teams that both conferences have to offer. The teams rising above the rest will be those who can play complementary football and, most importantly, consistently be true to themselves and strive at the highest of levels. This is the Fourth and Forever podcast. I'm your host, Josh Kirby. We're about to talk about wild card weekend and head to the divisional rounds. Let's get to it. Let's go. So, after a phenomenal, exciting wild card weekend, a wild card weekend within the first 4 games set the most lead change record in the first week of the playoffs of all time, which is incredible. But most importantly, for this guy right here, anyone that follows the pod know I picked all 6 games this week, and I went 6 for 6, and that isn't by chance. I would love to say I had a lot of luck was involved, but it wasn't. Like I said in the intro, I saw the matchups that were presented to me, and I picked the teams that I thought represented the best. So we're gonna start off first and foremost with the game that happened last night: the Texans defeating the Steelers 30-6 in a schwacking by the second half, which I figured this game would be close early. Two defensive teams. The offenses have been inconsistent throughout the season. But the one thing that's been consistent between both these teams is the Texans have not only the best defense in the league, but this might be the best defense I've seen since, the Ravens a couple years ago, or back in 2015 when the Broncos carried Peyton Manning to a Super Bowl. Legion of Boom. Like, this defense, for what they've been able to do at the level and the talent that it has been one of the greatest. It has probably been the greatest defense of the 2020s, and maybe the greatest defense of the last 10, maybe 15 years. This defense has been insane. They were able to force a defensive turnover for a couple defensive turnovers. We got a pick six. Which was Aaron Rodgers' last throw as the Steelers, which we'll get to Aaron Rodgers in a moment. You had a scoop and score by Sean Rankins. A lot of people forgot about him in this league, but he's been a talented guy in this league for many years now, and I mean, great, smart, intelligent play. It just that defense. They came with a fury all game, and even if the game was close early, you just realized that no matter what the Steelers did, they weren't going to overcome this defense. It just wasn't going to happen. There was one big play and then nothing. One big play, then nothing, and that was throughout the whole game. So I just want to talk about the Steelers first. First, the Steelers have now lost 7 straight playoff games in this Mike Tomlin era. So Mike Tomlin, 19 seasons as a head coach, no losing seasons, won a Super Bowl early in his tenure. But since then, he's really fallen flat to regain that same type of success. Is it because they haven't found the right quarterback? Maybe they had an aging Big Ben, a bunch of random guys between Duck Hodges, Mason Rudolph. You had Russell Wilson and Justin Fields last year, and then you have an old Aaron Rodgers this year, which proved he was the reason you may have won against one of the main reasons you won against the Ravens and were able to put yourself in a position in the postseason. But his lack of mobility really shined today in a game where the defense knew they were just gonna come after him. They were just gonna hit him. They were gonna push him around. They were going to force him out of the pocket, and he just wasn't as effective out of the pocket this season as he has been in past seasons throughout his career. Certified Hall of Famer, might be his last game he ever played. And a lot of people are saying, well, he don't want to end his career with a pick six. You know what? It's not. It's kind of poetic. As the guy that has one of the best TD to interception ratios of all time, he's going to retire currently with the best passer rating of all time in a career. Top five in touchdowns, top five in yards. He did everything he needed to do. He has a Super Bowl. He has four MVPs, a Super Bowl MVP. He set himself up for Canton pretty well. And it's, you know what? Throw a pick. It's kind of like Tom Brady. He ended his career throwing a pick in New England. I mean, he went to Tampa and had some success, but the end of his era in New England was an interception. But at least it was, and it was in the wild card. It was, like I said, it's kind of poetic that this is how he went out after the two weird years with the Jets. Him playing barely a few snaps the first season, and him playing a full season of chaos. Him to come and lead a team to a 10-7 division title and make a playoff game. It truly was a great showing for what he was able to do at his age of the career. I mean, most quarterbacks are done and gone. I mean, D'Amico Ryan's, they were talked about it, sacked Aaron Rodgers in Aaron Rodgers' first year of starting, and D'Amico's a year younger than Rodgers, and he's now on the sidelines. He's been coaching for a couple years now, so I think Rodgers is going to make the smart move, and he's going to walk away and retire. I think he can still play. As someone that thought he was washed and could not play anymore, I will I was wrong. I think this season he really proved he still had enough juice left, but that it's not the same juice he used to have. And I think winning playoff games and Super Bowls is pretty out of his hands now. I just don't think he can put himself in a position to do that. But on the flip side, it puts the Steelers in a really tough position where they once again need to go find a quarterback. And based on that circumstances, they might see Mike Tomlin, whether they want to or whether Tomlin wants to, that might be going for Splitsville. I think it's more likely that Tomlin walks away than the Steelers do, just because I think Tomlin realizes another year finding a quarterback, another year you're not sure how it's going to turn out. If this team doesn't have a quarterback, it's not the same team. And TJ Watt clearly is not the same player this year or even last year that he's been throughout his career. He's just his age is getting up there, injuries are catching up to him. It's just not the same. They have some nice young pass rushers. They have some nice pieces, but a lot of their pieces are older too. Cam Hayward, he's been banged up near the end of the season. He got banged up again, his ankle rolled up on. I mean, it was a minor thing. He came back and he played, but he's not getting any younger. Highsmith isn't getting any younger. Ramsey isn't getting any younger. You got a lot of promising young players, but even on offense, that O line isn't up to par. The offensive weapons, you clearly was an issue. You only really had a few guys you could trust, and he couldn't even get the ball to them because of the O line couldn't hold up. Steelers have a really, I think, bleak future going into next season, and I think if Tomlin and Rodgers both decide equally to walk away, I think Rodgers can retire into the sunset, Hall of Fame career. Tomlin, I would say most likely Hall of Fame coach. I think it's a hard debate just because he may have been coaching one organization for a long time. He's got one Super Bowl. Generally, I'll put you in no losing seasons, but this definitely is a stain on his record, losing 7 straight playoff games in the back half of his tenure. Now, to the Texans, though. First and foremost, let me mark this. When I was a Ravens fan in 2008, we hired John Harbaugh and we drafted Joe Flacco. And 5 seasons straight, those two went into the playoffs and won a playoff game. CJ Stroud gets drafted. Same year, D'Amico Ryans gets hired as a rookie head coach, and they have now went to the playoff 3 years in a row and have won 3 playoff games. This team reminds me, I think, a lot of the early Ravens team that I grew up watching. A really dominant defense that can get at you different ways, that forces turnovers with the back end, that can force sacks, that's got a great pass rusher. They have two. We had Suggs. You have a good, solid play calling linebacker. Alshire may not be Ray Lewis, but he does hold down that defense very effectively. And they have corners and safeties that are causing turnovers and causing disruption on the back end. We had Reed at the time doing his thing, and then we had Jimmy Smith when he was in his prime with us. So you can see a lot of like similarities to what this defense has put together. And on the offense, you have a young quarterback still getting into his own that may not be perfect every playoff game, but he has enough juice to win it. I mean, him and his center were having a struggling day. I think that's what threw him off. He was a little high on some passes, a little low on some passes, a little out to the left or out to the right a little bit. He was not as accurate as he's been his career. And I think the biggest issue with that, he was off kilter the moment. Every time he didn't know if that ball was going to be snapped a little to the left or to the right or a little high. he was in his head about the center quarterback combination, which is a huge issue for a quarterback. Because if you can't trust that snap coming out, you can lose the ball a few times. I mean, what, 4 fumbles I think it was on the game. I mean, he recovered 2 of them, but they lost 2 of them, put themselves in a poor situation on defense. Luckily, he has one of the greatest defenses, like I said, the last 10 years, easily helping him out. And that's complementary football right there. Now, he's got a lot of great weapons on offense. I think they got a lot of receivers that have a lot of talent. I think something that the Ravens did too. We had a lot of receivers that had talent, but it was hard to mesh it all together, get everything chugging. And then the running game, you have a young guy that's really has stepped up and a veteran who is, I think, really can impose his will at times. He may not be the back he was, but Nick Chubb is still an efficient RB2. Why Woody Marks, I mean, props to him. He has really had a breakout season the second half of the year and has really come on to be their starting back next year. And then you got a talented wide receiver group. Nico Collins got knocked out with a concussion, which you know is his go-to guy, but Higgins can play. No, I think he can play. Got a good tight end, Schultz. So across the board, this is a team that maybe the offensive line still needs to get some restructured. But moving forward, nobody wants to play this team. Nobody. This is a team that averages less than the defense averages less than 17 points a game, and their defense can score. That's dangerous. Any team playing them should be a little nervous, knowing that this is what they're going to have to face. Two top tier pass rushers, one of the most underrated players in the league in Danielle Hunter, and one of the rising stars in Will Anderson Jr. So it's going to be really interesting to see these what this team does going forward. But I mean, props all around for what this organization has been able to do the last 3 seasons. Whether they win the next playoff game or not, they've really set up a culture of success and resilience. A team that started 0-3 was able to make the playoffs and win a playoff game. And I mean, props to the coach, props to the quarterback. This really is what football is all about. And they have put it all on the line. Now they got to go to New England, and that's not an easy team to play, but a great pass rush against a young quarterback that could really shake up the game. And I think the betting on that game is going to be the hardest of all the games we're going into next weekend. But that wasn't the only crazy game this weekend because every game was wild. That was the largest margin of victory over the weekend. But let's go to a game, the first game of Wildcard Weekend, that really set the stage for everything. It was the LA Rams going to Carolina to take on the Panthers. Everyone, I think, everyone and their mamas, except for Panthers fans and even maybe some Panther fans, picked the Rams to win. Puka Nacua, Devontae Adams, Matthew Stafford, Jared Verse, Sean McVay. I mean, the list goes on and on of the talent of this team and the talent of the coaching staff. Like, it's just, it goes, like I said, it goes on and on. Their secondary definitely is the weakness, and you saw uh, the receivers for Carolina get open. I said that was going to be an issue. I said Carolina's got they got some big, long receivers that they are going to cause problems for this secondary. And they did. They 100% did. It was it was nice. It was nice to see though. It was nice to see a team that came in at 8-9, not letting that define them and really put up a fight. So I think that has kind of put into a lot of people's heads what do you do with Bryce Young? So I was talking to my brother about this, and I think I know the comparison for Bryce Young. You put a good team around Bryce Young, I think he can win. He's got some mobility. He's got an okay arm, but it's not a bad arm, but it's an okay arm. He's a little undersized. Is he just the, let's say, the light version of Jalen Hurts? I mean, Jalen Hurts may be a little more mobile, maybe a little stronger arm, but he's a little. Some people would say he's a little undersized. They're both very reserved guys. They lead more by example than by vocals. They're not going to scream, get in your face. They're not that Peyton Manning esque leadership style. They're more calm, chill. Like, you know what, we got this. We're gonna just like more of a really centered presence about both of them guys. And they both they win. I mean, even when their stats don't look the best, they do enough to help their team get that victory, even if they themselves may not look like the reason for the victory. It's an I know it's an interesting comp. I know they don't play exactly the same, but it just what they've produced so far, and you see the success of Jalen Hurts. Do you think you could get that same success out of Bryce Young if you continue to put pieces around him? Now, with his 5th-year option coming up, they're about to head into his 4th year in the league. I think he's earned enough. I mean, he played really well in a postseason game, showed up in the big moments. That's something that Jalen Hurts always does. Maybe, just maybe, he deserves a 5th-year option. Now, if you do take a 5th-year option with him, that means you're committing on this quarterback for another 2 years. And as a guy that I will admit I have not been a huge Bryce Young fan, and I still don't think he's your franchise quarterback. But I think out of respect for the player and the organization, you have to give him another year. Especially, I think Dave Canales has really proven he's a good head coach. Now, he might be more in that middle tier. I put him, if you're ranking the coaches, he might sit more that 14, 15 spot, like right in the middle of all the coaches. But he's definitely is a good enough coach to be in the position he's in. So I think Carolina's got a lot of questions, and I think it all starts with the quarterback and what they're going to do with him moving forward. As for the Rams, um, truth being told, the pass rush has not been as dominant as it should be. I think they only sacked him 2 or maybe 3 times. It's not enough for how much talk all year we've talked about this, how great this defensive pass rush is, and it ends up not being as dominant as I think it should have been. The secondary is clearly still a liability. I will talk more about next week's matchup and how I see them going against Chicago. But truthfully, is this Rams team, have they already peaked? I mean, a few people have said week 14, week 15 that that was like in the middle of the season near the middle back end, I guess. They really were great, but they lost. I think it was like 2 of their last 3 games, and one being to the Atlanta Falcons, who at that point, whatever you want to say about the Falcons, the Rams are a better team than them. I think we all can agree. Rams have better weapons, they have a better defense, they have a better coaching staff. They had no business losing that game. And then they lost a game to the Panthers early in the season. Then look at that, they let the Panthers be competitive. I think this is a team that I think we all really like because of what they brought to the table. But now that they're at the table, we're looking, it's easier to dissect. Well, the secondary isn't great. The run game, they have 2 good running backs, but it's not a consistent run game. Their pass rush is not producing as high on a sack ratio as you would like. And then you start picking it apart, and you're like, man, they're about to get the divisional round's a tough matchup. You got the fast, hot offense of the Chicago Bears. You have a dominant defense in the Seattle Seahawks. And you have a consistent, resilient team in the Niners. How is this team going to match up compared to any of those teams? Would you say that going into the divisional round, they're the 4th best team amongst those teams left in the NFC? I mean, it's hard not to say that. I think they have more talent right now than the Niners, but the Eagles have more talent than the Niners. And look what the Eagles did to them. I mean, look what the Niners did to them, and we'll get to that. So, truthfully, this is a matchup going into it. I just thought I wasn't going to count Stafford and Sean McVay and just the overall talent the Rams had. But moving forward, I think there's a lot more questions about what this team can do against, I think, a tougher opponent in the Chicago Bears. If a lesser opponent can play up to this level, how would a equal or better opponent play if they continue to play the way they're playing? So it would be nice to see where that goes for this team. But I will say, even if no matter what happens, I think Stafford did enough this year that if they bring Stafford back next year, they still should draft a quarterback to be in wake. Because truth is, Sean McVay wants to keep coaching, which I think he does. I think even a couple years ago when he thought about going to taking a deal with Prime or whatever, Amazon Prime and stuff, he really was debating it, and he ended up coming back. I think he just loves this sport and he loves to coach, but he's going to need a young quarterback. He's going to need a mobile quarterback, someone that can escape. Because I think the one thing this weekend that showed quarterbacks that can get out of the pocket and make plays, like a Caleb Williams, a Josh Allen, they really have set the difference in each of their games. I mean, even Purdy has proved he's a little more mobile this year than I think we all would have expected of him. He's got a good sense for when to run, even though he's definitely more of a pass first gunslinger. It's a really good combination for the Niners to have at quarterback, and he's someone you can build around. But like Rams and Carolina, props to Carolina for what they did, and hopefully the Rams can pick themselves up and really get that defense a little more honed down against their matchup against the Bears. Next, we got the Bills Jaguars, which was the first game on the Sunday night games, or the Sunday games, or however you want to say it. First and foremost, props to Liam Cohen and what Liam was able to do this season with the Jags. After the matchup, a reporter came to him and told him, "Hey, keep your head up, young fella. You did a great season. Good for you." She got a little flame for it, saying, "Hey, you're wasting time. That's not a question." But screw that. That was that was what he needed. He needed to hear that because you could see the emotion on his face. He felt like he really let the city and his team down. But he coached his ass off all season. I mean, Coach of the Year candidate, 100%. Someone that came from Tampa that had that, the Duval. That was even that seemed like he was going to be a joke. But remember, Dan Campbell talked about biting kneecaps. Ben Johnson said they were going to. He couldn't wait to beat the Packers twice a year. They bit some kneecaps in Detroit the last couple of years. Maybe not Super Bowl, but they made their presence felt and they changed the culture. And Ben Johnson beat the Packers twice this year. He got lucky they matched up in the playoffs, but still. Sometimes when these coaches come on these pressers, it's a lot that for opening press conference because that opening press conference is going to stick with you up until you get results. It's a results based league. If you don't get results, everything you've done before gets brought up maybe in a bad light. And now it's something we joke about and we just move forward and you're like, hey, his Duval wasn't great at the beginning. Presser was kind of awkward, but he knows how to coach football. He's got the best out of Trevor Lawrence out of every coach that's stepped foot in there. And I mean, you had a Super Bowl winning coach in Doug Peterson be there and not be able to do that. And you had Urban Meyer, who is considered one of the greatest college coaches of this the modern era, and he couldn't do nothing with it. So a lot of props to what he was able to do with this team, turning a team that was, I think it was a 4-win team into what, a 12, 13-win team. Like, props. Like a round of applause is more than welcome and granted for Liam Cohen. But before we get to the Bills, the problem with this game was the same problem with this team all year and why I struggled to trust this team going into the playoffs. And that was the difference of the quarterbacks, as in you have Josh Allen versus Trevor Lawrence. And Trevor Lawrence was once again more of the liability. Not saying he played bad. I don't want to give him that notion that he had a bad game. But we've seen consistently throughout the season that this team is more quarterback reliant, as in they have a lot of talent at receiver. But you got to get them the ball. They have a good run game, but if they can slow the run game down, then it relies on the quarterback. And this defense is I think it's been at times an underrated defense, but they're still not a great defense. So you're really relying on Trevor Lawrence to come out there and really step up a little bit. Maybe this is just who he is. A lot of people talked about him being a huge prospect coming out of college. And Colin Cowherd recently on his podcast said it best. Maybe we just overvalued Trevor. Maybe we overscouted him. Maybe we saw him to be something that he was never going to be. Maybe he's not John Elway, Andrew Luck. Maybe he's Dak Prescott. Maybe he's Tony Romo, Kirk Cousins. That middle tier guy that can lead your team to the playoffs. He can win you some games. He can put up some good numbers. But when in the brightest of moments, when you have to put him, when his team goes into battle and the other team brings on a top 5 elite quarterback, at the end of the day, you're going to pick the top 5 elite quarterback over Trevor Lawrence. I think anytime, any day, always. And that was the difference of this game. So for the Jags moving forward, I think there's nothing you can do about that. I think what you can do is make sure that O-line stays sturdy so Trevor can stay upright. I think you continue to coach Trevor, and I think you go into next season realizing that this Texans defense is not going to get any worse. So maybe make sure you have 2 elite tackles on each side, and then maybe use some draft picks on the defense because you got Parker Washington, you got Christian Kirk. I'm sorry, he's on Houston. Who had a great game. I did not mention that, but shout out Christian Kirk in the Houston game. I mean, over 140, about 144 yards. It's like 9 receptions, a touchdown. Like, I've been a Christian Kirk fan since he gets drafted in Arizona, so I'm so proud of him being able to put out a production like that. But back to the Giants, you got Parker Washington, Jacoby Myers, Brian Thomas Jr., you got Travis Etienne, and Brent Strange just came on as a really solid tight end. You have units, you have pieces. Spend some money on that defense, get that defense a little more sound, and I think it'll be easy. It'll be another great year of competing within the division and competing for playoff spots next year. So that's all I gotta say on the Jags. I like what they were able to do this game, but truthfully, when you go against Josh Allen, who won his first road playoff game, by the way, but I knew it was coming. It's Josh Allen. I said if he goes Superman mode, they win. If he's not Superman, it's unlikely they'll win. He was Superman. He was like maybe 3/4 of Superman. I mean that tush push that ended up going 10 yards, something like that. That's all Superman. But he made some mistakes. He made some poor plays, and at the end of the day, that's just what happens in this league sometimes. Like things aren't don't always go perfectly. But when you have a quarterback like that, the team believes. That defense played harder than I think it's played all season. The offense, who I think is a just a bunch of random weapons that like Brandon Cooks was probably the best receiver on the field that day, and he's been everywhere in this league. Great production, but really he's been everywhere. James Cook couldn't really get going. He's good, but he struggled. So Josh Allen put it on his cape, and his cape was a little worn. It was a little battered. I mean, almost concussed, twisted his knee. Looks like he banged up his hand. I mean, he was every chance you looked when he was coming off field, he was going in the blue tent. I mean, Trubisky was out there thinking, man, I got to go win a playoff game, which I think if Trubisky would have went out there, we would not be saying this. But the Bills did win because of Josh Allen. And truth being told, the Jags were maybe the more talented team. Uh, on another podcast, John Middlecoff said if you would have switched Josh Allen and Trevor Lawrence with those teams and moved the quarterbacks and switched the teams, Jaguars with Josh Allen probably wins that game, and probably wins that game by 10, 15. But Josh Allen is just, he's a difference maker. He's one of the greatest players in this league. And moving forward in the playoffs, no matter the matchups, you have to give them a slight edge in some way because if he can go off and do what he do, that that's a winning formula. It's not the best formula. I mean, trusting all your hope on one guy is dangerous because if he gets knocked out of the game, your team's done. If he gets banged up, I mean, your season could be over next season. Like this is a guy like he puts a lot on himself, and he's been durable up to this point. But you can only take so many bumps and bruises before your body breaks. So this is a team that, depending on how the rest of the season folds out in this postseason, they really got to be sure about protecting Josh Allen moving forward because he is their franchise. You are nothing without Josh Allen, and I think we have all witnessed that after this game. So props to them. Next game I want to talk about is two of my favorite quarterbacks in the league, outside of my boy Lamar, is Drake May and Justin Herbert. So before we talk about the Patriots, let's talk about the Chargers. Justin Herbert is now 0-3 in the playoffs, and he's performed pretty poorly in all three playoff games. But I knew this was coming. I knew this was going to happen. You don't have your two starting tackles in Joe Alt and Rasheed. What is it? Sean Slater. Yeah, Slater and Alt didn't aren't there, so you're already working with them two, and then everyone else in the own line is just graded poorly. They don't have a good offensive line at all, and it was the difference in this game. Herbert was having to hurry throws. He was getting knocked on his ass constantly, getting pushed around. He looked banged up. He looked defeated throughout the game. He was still fighting, but he looked defeated. This game just looked like he was getting his ass kicked constantly, and he just you could just see him looking up, and it's like, damn, I just need something to go my way, and things just never really went his way. And on the other side, May didn't play particularly great. Maybe was able to run a little more. I think his rushing was a little better, but truthfully, he didn't hit every throw. He missed on some, I think, easy balls. But the difference of this game was, I think, the pass rush wasn't getting to May, and May just seemed more poised. He seemed more calm and comfortable. I think having good protection throughout the season really favored him, as in Herbert. He was so used to getting knocked around and banged up all season that now in a game like this, getting knocked around and banged up, it was just defeating. While May didn't feel that way. He felt the pressure and he just took off and run, or he just threw it away. I mean, it's like I said, he turned the ball over a few times and it wasn't pretty. but he really was. He felt more calm. He felt more, like I said. Sometimes it's nice to have a quarterback that seems a little more centered. I think Herbert was just banged up around. He didn't have time to get centered. He was a little more frazzled, which is terrible. You don't you can't excuse it. I love Justin Herbert as a quarterback, but I can't excuse what that difference. You've been in this league longer than May. May should not look more poised than you. You need to get a grip a little bit. Your line's bad. Guess what? There's not many great offensive lines in the league anymore. Ever since the league has changed the practice standards and stuff and how they practice, they say more now than ever that O line play is just not at the same standard. I mean, outside of the top 5, 6, 7 O lines in the league, they're all not great. Like it's just the truth. No one has, not many teams have a top tier perfect O line. I mean, you can probably name all the top O lines off the top of your head, and then outside of that, it's just all mush, like how you compare them. So it's like you can't have that as your excuse for poor performances. You can't, because the other quarterback was getting pressured. The other quarterback played poorly, but he still played not as poorly as you. And that was his first playoff game, and this is now your third playoff game, and this is now a trend with Herbert. He has now played poorly in back to back to back playoff games. Some of those involving multiple turnovers. He couldn't get a grip of the game, and that is a I don't I don't want that to define his career. This team needs to go into the offseason and understand that this team needs to be a better unit moving forward. I think the offensive line, you need your backup offensive lineman to be able to come in and make plays. The guys you have there right now, I know you're going to have two guys come back from injury, and that can really change this offense. But the guys you already have in place on that roster that are the backups are not good enough to start, let alone, I think, be a backup for a team that can't risk losing their O line because they can't risk their quarterback taking this many hits another season. Same with the run game. They could not get it going as well. They couldn't trust Mario Hampton, which is their best running back. Even though he was a rookie, he is their best running back this season. They couldn't trust their defense as well in the long scheme of things because by the end of it, it just May was able to still escape. He was still able to get rush for first downs. Ramondre Stevenson had some good rushes. Travion Henderson had some good rushes. This team just felt defeated halfway through the game, and I think a lot of it comes from the quarterback seeming beat up and battered in the game, and they lost a lot of hope. And I think the Patriots were able to just outlast them, and they had a lot more. I think they just had a lot more will to win, and they just dug their heels and they did it. So props to the Patriots for what they were able to do all season in this game. And I mean, the Chargers, Chargers and Herbert, you have to fix this. You can't be 0-3 in the playoffs with a coach in Jim Harbaugh, a quarterback of Justin Herbert, and a team that we all had, a lot of people had winning this division going into the season, and now they were a wild card team and then gets bumped in the first round of the playoffs. That says a lot more about this team than I think everything they did last season, which is really heartbreaking because they had such a great season last year, getting things together when things weren't perfect and being able to make the playoffs last year with a team that wasn't great. And then now this year, it's like you have, at some point, something has to give and something has to be fixed and something has to truly be addressed. And protecting Herbert is number one, maybe with better protection, maybe with a little more sense of understanding. Moving forward, that's not going to be as much of an issue. But next, I want to talk about the Chicago Bears versus the Green Bay Packers. So first and foremost, Matt LaFleur, great head coach. He's taking this team to the playoffs. I don't think he should be fired. He's one of those guys that if he gets fired, he's going to find a job pretty damn easily. He's a great coach, understands his team, and he's getting the best out of his team. The truth is, though, what I thought about Jordan Love just wasn't true. I thought Jordan Love had the ability to come in and be a top 6 quarterback in the league. I thought that was where his talent is. He's not. It's okay. He's also, I think, on the same side of Trevor Lawrence. They're very similar. I think he's a guy that can make a lot of plays. He can look really exciting. He can sling the ball. He can move a little bit. But truth being told, he's going to be more of a 10, 12, top 10, 12 guy. Maybe at times feel like an 8, 9. But he's not going to hit a top 5. That's just not who he is. They could not run the ball the second half at all. I think the Chicago defense, the coordinator was it Dennis Allen, who former head coach of the Saints and of the Raiders at one point. He had a perfect second half game plan, really eliminated Josh Jacobs, who was a problem the first half. He came non basically a non factor the second half. They they did Jordan Love threw 4 touchdowns and they didn't turn the ball over. So you did ask the best out of your quarterback, and this team, they really showed up. But I told everyone, I said the moment Micah Parsons got injured, the wind was out of this team's sails. The defense, not that they aren't a great defense, that was their big swing. They took a big swing on the offseason to go grab him. When he went down, it felt like everything they were building towards went down as well, which says a lot about the coaching staff and this organization to let that happen. Now, I don't put it all on LaFleur because I think it was a lot of the players too. They saw their best defensive player go down, and their thought is, man, we got to step up, we got to make plays, and it's hard to do that when you don't have a guy like Parsons out there, and no one on the team is going to fill that role because he's such a unique player. They went to got him because he's a game changer. He's a game wrecker, and he could not wreck this game. He wasn't there to do it. But I don't think this game in title was about the Packers. This was about a team that has now had 7 fourth quarter comebacks this season. About a team that was a 5-win team last year that became the number 2 seed in the NFC. This was a team where the hottest offensive coordinator in the league took this job because of a number 1 overall pick in Caleb Williams, who last year people considered, man, this guy might not be that great. He can't do the simple things. And then you see him this year, and he's slinging it. He's not the most accurate. He's missing some layups, but holy crap, can he make that 4th and 8 throw? I know everyone's talking about it. One of the greatest throws I've seen in a long time. That was probably one of the greatest throws this season. His ability to, but that's what you get with someone at his style. He's mobile enough where he can roll out of the pocket. He doesn't have to be perfectly planted, and he can put the ball where he needs to put the ball when it matters the most. That was, I think, that right there in that game showed the whole world. This is Caleb Williams. This is what he can be, and I'm on board. I'm hopping on board. I hopped on board I think a couple weeks ago, but I'm on board now. I'm not. I don't mind attaching my name to his right now. Like I am a Caleb Williams fan. I think this guy is a very talented quarterback, and he's a guy that has already that first playoff game he didn't flinch. I mean, he's not going to be great all 4 quarters, but a lot of these things, the layups, the inconsistency through the early parts of the game. He's only in his second year. This is stuff that coaching can clean up. And you have your coach. So now you have your coach, you have your quarterback, you have great weapons around this team. You put some draft picks into your defense to make sure they don't have to come back late in game every single time. Really puts this team, it puts everything into perspective for the Chicago Bears and this city. I mean, they should be so proud of what their team has done this year and what their team is going to do in the next coming years, because I don't see this team slowing down. I mean, Caleb is doing things where, I mean, truthfully, I mean, the throw he made, I mean, list the quarterbacks that can make that throw. Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, Justin Herbert. Like, outside of those guys, which we know those guys can make pretty much any throw on the field, who else is doing that? There's not many quarterbacks doing what he did. There's very, like I said, I named probably the only 3 other ones that I think would make that throw. But who else? It was very telling of the game that you had the wow from Caleb, that Jordan Love did everything he could to put his team in a position to win. But yet, at the end of the day, the difference was Caleb can make some wow. Caleb is different. He is a talent. He's more than just a quarterback. He is a overall talent, and that's the difference. And that was the difference in this game. And I think they had more to play for. This is a team that just they believe in themselves. They believe in each other. Ben Johnson has really changed the culture here in Chicago. And if anything, really brought to light how great how this organization has struggled for so many years, and all they really needed was a stability at head coach and a quarterback, and they got both. And everything else, I think, is just going to fall into place. Now, whether they can go out and beat the Rams or represent the NFC, we'll see how it goes. But this was their best win this season, and it was just something they've been doing all year. Like I talked about, consistency. They came out reports that in the offseason, Ben Johnson showed this team that 28-3 comeback in the New England Atlanta Super Bowl. And somehow this team was the best team at fourth quarter comebacks this season. That's not a coincidence. The coach knew that this team didn't have the best defense in the league, but they had a defense that can force turnovers and make plays. This coach knew what this offense and what his quarterback was capable of. He didn't show them that by chance. He showed them that to show no matter what hole we get in, we can dig, we can fight, and we can get out of it. That's a head coach. He saw what this season potentially could be, and he made this team believe when, I mean, you look, this is not the best defense in this league. This is not the most talented defense in the league. We're the whole reason they may not, I would see them losing in the playoffs is because of this defense. The whole reason they had to make comebacks is because of this defense. But to be able to acknowledge that as a coach without saying it and just basically give this team that fight, props to the coach, props to the quarterback, props to this city. And I'm so excited to see what this team does moving forward, whether it's this season or the coming seasons. It just overall, like, I just a round of applause for this team. That was amazing. Now, for a game that I wouldn't say was amazing, but I enjoyed a lot, was the Niners Eagles. That was the team. Both those games. That was the game I was most excited for. I know a lot of Eagles fans, and I told them, I said, coming into this game, I didn't like the matchup, and it's like, why don't you like the matchup? The Eagles have receivers are better than their defensive backs, right? The Niners have one of the worst pass rushes in the league, and the Eagles have one of the better O lines in the league. I mean, you're right. Eagles have one of the best running backs in the league. You're right. The Eagles' defense has been one of the best defenses in the league second half of the season. All season they've been great. Second half of the season they've been one of the best. You're right. But I told a manager of mine, I said, listen, the difference between these teams is the 49ers each and every week were consistent. They relied on Christian McCaffrey doing a little bit of everything. They relied on great offensive scheming. They were able to put out two quarterbacks throughout the season, and both of them won games. And a defense that have lost their two best players. And I will still say this. I came in because I've been saying this. They lost their four best defensive players. Ufunga and Dre Greenlaw both left in free agency before the season started. And Nick Bosa and Fred Warner during the season got hurt. This team has played most of the season with guys, like I said, if you had Niners fans, if you had to stand up and name the 11 starters on defense, you'd struggle. As a huge football fan, I can maybe name four guys, maybe, on that defense. But yet it doesn't matter what name's on the back of the jersey. It matters what logo they represent. And most importantly, it matters that Robert Saleh, who was fired from New York because they thought he wasn't a good enough head coach, where he left a potential top five defensive team that became a bottom five defensive team, and he takes over this team, or he comes in and he comes back. They gave him money. They convinced him to come coach for the Niners because they wanted his quality back. And he slotted in, and immediately he put I would say, a lack of talent defense to overperform all season long. This team did the same thing it's done in every game this season. The defense performed to the best of their ability, even with the lack of talent. And the offense, which no one's raving about their offensive. I mean, Kittle went down with injury early in the game, and he's been banged up throughout the season. Trent Williams isn't at 100%. McCaffrey, I mean, he's, like I said, catching, running, pitching, whatever he has to do to help this team. I mean, Jawan Jennings threw a touchdown in this game. I mean, look at that. that play call at that for that moment at that time, that's Kyle Shanahan. And I've been saying this. I've been talking the praises of Sean Payton and Kyle Shanahan all season. How they're two of the best coaches in the league, and truthfully, I respect what every team's done. But what them two were able to do with the teams that they're walking into, and what they've been able to, the output they've been putting, that's coach of the year candidacy. I don't care what you look at. I mean, I know the postseason doesn't really count for coach of the year, but what Kyle Shanahan has done with this Niners team, with their lack of talent, and most would say a possible retooling season, doesn't matter. They're in the playoffs and they won a playoff game, and they won a playoff games against the defending Super Bowl champs. All the props to the Niners. As on, okay, let me stay on the Niners. One more thing. I got one more thought about the Niners. Brock Purdy, a guy that I like Brock Purdy, but I wasn't ringing the bell, handing out awards. I wouldn't consider myself a Purdy guy, but I like Brock. I might be a Purdy guy now. I mean, Purdy is now 5-2 in the postseason, and 4 of those wins are coming as fourth quarter comebacks. This man has proven that he's a really talented quarterback. He's a great game manager. He's a gunslinger, and he knows when to run. He knows he gets the game. He's a gamer. That's just what he is. He's not gonna. I mean, he's not Josh Allen. He's not Patrick Mahomes, but he can play and he can win. And this is a guy that is a top 10 quarterback in the league. I mean, truthfully, I mean, look what he's able to do. I mean, outside of his injuries, and he's a little undersized, but he's a top 10 quarterback in the league. And I think we all just have to accept it now. And if he's back there, this team believes in him, and he believes in this team. It's there's everything about this unit. This is a team that I think really got beat up this game, and I think it hurts their chances moving forward this season. But man, don't tell me that this team isn't going to come out next season swinging, because they can bring in maybe another wide receiver. They can maybe add some names to this defense. This is a team that could be really scary next season if they can just limit injuries, and that is truly going to be the difference for the Niners moving forward. As in the Eagles, like I said about the Niners, what they did all season. What have the Eagles done all season? They've struggled to play 4 quarters of football. They either bad in the first half or they're bad in the second half. They struggled to get AJ Brown consistently going and keep him happy, which keeping good vibes on the sidelines. Jalen Hurts, the more you ask of him, the less likely this team wins, because he should not be the center focus of this team. Saquon Barkley is, but then again, you have 2 really expensive receivers, and I think 2 or 3 catches between both of them in the second half against a defense that, like I said, isn't that great. And your defense played great. Quinyon Mitchell with 2 turnovers. Cooper DeJean, Rodrigo Blankenship making plays. Zach Baldwin making great tackles. Defensive line with Carter and I'm blanking on the other guy. You know what I'm talking about though. Either way, great. Like this overall, that defense played how it did what it was supposed to do. But the game was ugly, the game was messy, and once again the Eagles in the second half of the game, they struggled to get a pass game going. Then they started being able to struggle to run the ball, and everything that this team was this season unfolded in one game. We saw it all. We saw the poor pass game, the poor rush game, the boring schemes. They look boring. They looked boring, and they did not look like they were here to compete. So, at the end of the day, that's what this is. That's what the Eagles are. They were a team with all this talent and lack of execution. And that falls on the offense, that falls on the offensive coordinator, and most importantly, it falls on Nick Sirianni, because he should have saw this was a problem halfway through the season. Truthfully, Nick Sirianni should have let the offense coordinator go halfway through the season and fix this problem. Truthfully, Nick Sirianni should have told the general manager, I can't control AJ Brown. He needs out of this building. The vibes are just not right. And I'm not blaming AJ Brown. They're not targeting him. When they do, I mean, when you talk all that, you have to make those catches. But at the same time, they talk about it with receivers talk about it all the time. If you go 30, 20, 30, 40 minutes of the game where you don't get the ball thrown your way, I mean, it's a lot. then you got to catch it. I mean, he's a volume receiver. He wants the ball. He wants to keep going. Yeah, he may drop a pass here or there, but if he catches, let's say he's targeted 10 times, he catches 8 balls, no one's really going to care about the 2 drops because he's done enough production. This is just this place, this organization. I think the quarterback, the coach, I think everything about this team does not work for AJ Brown anymore. And I think AJ Brown will be more than happy to go to a place like New England where they're going to sling it. Go to the Chargers, they're going to sling it. I mean, anywhere with a team with a quarterback that wants to sling it, he will go. I think I really do believe that. I think he has a lot. I think he would feel the need for a lot more options than I think that maybe people wouldn't understand. But he wants to go to a place where the quarterback's going to sling the ball, and that's what really is important to him. As in for this Eagles team, you got so much to address. I think the only thing that is for certain on this team is Vic Fangio, your defense coordinator. He's one of the best defense coordinators in the league, and most people aren't going to interview him for a head coaching job anymore. Keep him. He's made this defense an elite defense. So don't mess with the defense. Let them be. That defense is really talented. On the offensive side, get AJ Brown out of there, get a new OC, and if you have to, get a new head coach. Get someone that can, like when the game is getting out of hands, he can put his fingerprints on the game and change the game. You look this weekend, look at the teams that won. Bears won, and you saw Ben Johnson's fingerprints on the game. The Texans won, and you saw DeMeco Ryans' fingerprints on the game. The Niners won, you saw Kyle Shanahan's fingerprints on the game. Like there was moments throughout these games where the head coaching, whether they specialize on the offensive or defensive side, you can see their fingerprints, their little things in the games. That's why the teams won that won. Nick Sirianni, what is he? He's a CEO head coach to the truest, but if his coordinators aren't good, he's almost useless. And I hate to say that because I think Sirianni's a good coach, but I don't think he's a great coach. I mean, he won a Super Bowl, but think about it. He won a Super Bowl with Kellen Moore, who has been a proven, very skilled, highly touted offense coordinator who now has a head coaching job, and that Saints team, it could be a threat next year. And then look at his defensive, and then last time they went to the Super Bowl, look at how Shane Steichen, what he was able to do with the Colts and Daniel Jones. He was there the first year they went to the Super Bowl. Jonathan Gannon, who was a really good defensive coordinator there in the Eagles. He left for Arizona. Now he didn't. I think the Arizona defense is just has no players. But I mean, they were a bad defense because they just had no talent. But over and that whole team was just didn't. I don't think bought in. But I don't think he was a bad defense coordinator. I think he'll get a job somewhere. And Vic Fangio has proven his success. But the one year that they were one and done in the playoffs, they had 2 bad coordinators. This year they have 1 bad coordinator and I think a head coach that is just not up to par with the other head coaches. Let's just say in the conference. So I would say maybe he's a debatable best head coach in division, but that also depends on who comes in for New York. Like, do you really want to test your odds when Kevin Stefanski or John Harbaugh might come in and get that New York Giants job? Get a hold of Jackson Dart and those weapons and that defense and really is able to do some things there. That is, there's a lot. There's a lot to go into play. So I'm not one to root for someone getting fired, but Nick Sirianni, your job 100% is on the line. Next, uh, I was going to talk about coaches' firings and hirings and candidates. I think I might do that in a separate video this week. Might do that on TikTok. I want to talk about next week's matchups real quick. You got the Rams going to Chicago, the Texans going to New England, the Niners going to Seattle, and the Bills going to Denver. Truth being told, I think I know who's going to win these games. Not so sure, but I'm about to make my picks, and we're about to go through each of these matchups. First, Rams go to Chicago. I think Chicago's going to pull out this victory. The weakness of the Rams is their secondaries, and one of the strengths of this Bears offense is their quarterback being able to get out of pressure and make big plays, and they got good receiver. I mean, Odunze is quick and a pretty decent route runner. Burden can really show up, and he's quick. You got DJ Moore, who's quick and a phenomenal route runner, and he's a veteran on that in that receiving core. Colson Loveland, I mean, I didn't even mention him talking about the Bears, but he's becoming. He has the potential to be an elite top tier talent at tight end. I mean, after what he's performed on the latter half of the season and now in this postseason, he's going to go into next season as one of the best tight ends in the league. And I don't think it's debatable now after the production he put out. If the voting odds came in after the postseason, Loveland has a chance to win Rookie of the Year. His season wasn't statistically the best, so he's not going to win it. But that one playoff game, that that showed me enough to know this man is a great tight end, and he's going to be great in this franchise. I just think the Rams are running into a really tough matchup. I like Ben Johnson, what he can do with this offense. I love Sean McVay and Stafford, and I think they're going to make it a hell of a game. I think it's going to be a very exciting game. But at the end of the day, Stafford gets banged around a little bit. Stafford is on the road, cold, potentially very cold day. He might be liable to turn the ball over. And you know what the Bears are best at? Forcing turnovers. I think this game just leans more Chicago. I think it favors Chicago more. I think Chicago has a tough road after this, whether they're going to have to play have them host the Niners or go play the Seahawks. But I have Chicago beating the Rams. Next, Texans at New England. You know what? No, I'm gonna hold off on this game. This is my hardest. Honestly, I have no clue who's gonna win that game. So next, I'll talk about the 49ers are going to Seattle. I got Seattle in this game. I truly believe that game against the Eagles, it took everything in the Niners to win that game. They are banged up, they're bruised. I think they've overachieved this season. I think this is culmination of overachieving. I think they did everything they could to put themselves in a position to win, and they won. I think they're just I think they're a well-rested Seattle team with a very attacking defense and an offense that can spark really fast out of nowhere with their weapons. I mean, they have a great possession guy in Cup. They have an all-out, all-pro in JSN. Good running back duo. Offensive line is above average. Darnold has really can play great ball, and he can move around. He's got mobility. He's got the ability to roll out of pocket. He runs to he scrambles to throw, not scrambles to run, which is something that's improved his game. I think it's just a bad matchup for the Niners at this point in their season. I think they're out of gas. I think they're out of juice. I just think they're walking in and they just now you get to prep. The Seattle gets to prep for them not having Kittle, so it's going to be hard for this overall the offense. They don't outside of Kittle and McCaffrey. I mean, you can Demarcus Robinson showed up big. Juwan Jennings had his best game. I mean, both these guys had their best games, but had two of their better games of their careers. But at the end of the day, I just think the Seattle Seahawks team is just built. It's just built better at the moment. I think they're just more prepped for the situation. But it's going to be a good game. It's a divisional game. It's going to be a good game. But I have Seattle winning that game. Next, I got the Bills going to Denver. Denver was the 1 seed. They have a great defense. I think I think similarly how I feel about the Niners. It's how I feel about the Bills, but in a little different way. I don't think the Bills are out of gas or out of juice. I just think the Broncos are very well rested. I think they have a really smart head coach. They have a mobile quarterback that can and they have a good I think I think that what sucks is the Bills don't have a great defense. Broncos have a really good defense. They can get in there. I mean, the last time when the Bills played the Texans, which I think that's the best defense is entering the playoffs. Where I mean, probably rank them off is Seattle or probably Texans, Seattle, Denver, Philly. You can switch up the order. I'll probably keep Texans at one no matter what, but you can switch up the order. But now they have to go against this Broncos defense, which is going to be coming at Allen all night. Allen was banged up, pushed around all last week. He's not coming in 100%. Clearly, he just can't be. They don't have any dominant receivers, and you got Pat Surtain on the other side, and everyone on that defense is pretty healthy coming into the game. I think it's just Mile High Stadium. That's a tough place to play. I think just even though they have the quarterback edge in Buffalo, and I would not be shocked if the Bills pull out this win. I'm leaning towards Denver in this game. I'm giving them the coaching advantage. I'm giving them the defensive advantage. I'm giving them maybe the weapons advantage. Even though I don't I don't think the Bills have bad weapons, but I will say I think and I don't think the Denver Broncos have phenomenal weapons, but I do believe the weapons on Denver are better than I would say the best weapon in the game. When you break it all down, will probably put James Cook and Dalton Kincaid are probably 1 and 2, but then the whole list would feature all the Broncos receivers above all the Buffalo receivers. And I like I said, not that Brandon Cooks great, but he's not who he once was. He's not the guy that's going to get 1,000 yards everywhere he goes. And in a game like this, I just think Denver has an extra week to prepare. They're just too much leaning favorable for Denver. I wouldn't be shocked if the Bills win, but if the Bills win, Josh Allen's got to rush for what 2 touchdowns. That's probably throw for 2 touchdowns. He's gonna have to be full blown Superman, and the Broncos are gonna do everything they can to be the kryptonite. So that's how I think Denver's gonna win that. And then last but not least, the Texans go to New England. That game is going to be the hardest game to pick with that pass rush coming relentlessly, the DBs forced turnovers. You saw Drake May had a rough performance in their first game together. I originally, when I made my bracket, I chose the Texans to win, but I watched the New England team play. That defense plays hard. That offense plays hard. Drake May's got so much poise. I think this is one of the toughest matchups to pick. I may change my mind throughout the week. I literally, when I placed my bets after Sunday, I made a bet with both teams winning in different parlays. I don't know. I don't. This is the toughest matchup to pick. But if I had to root it down to it, I don't believe C.J. Stroud's going to struggle next week as much as he struggled this game. I think this was very much an outlier. He didn't fumble all season. He had 4 fumbles, lost 2 fumbles, and he didn't lose. If I don't know if he fumbled, but he definitely didn't lose a fumble all season. So that was very anomaly. So it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. But truth being told, I think when it comes down to it, the difference in this game is going to be you have a generational defense taking on a young quarterback, a young offense, a team that I think was good enough to make the playoffs, but I think winning a playoff game and in the position they've been put in has definitely overachieved this season. A team that can be a bigger threat next year, but I just think the matchup offensively, defensively, it's just not the same. I think the Texans are going to pull it out. I think they're going on the road and they're going to get back-to-back road victories in the postseason. So there are my picks for the week: Chicago, Texans, Seattle, Denver. I'm sticking true to what I said in the brackets. I was 6 for 6. I'm about to go 4 for 4, and that's how we do it. Everyone have a great rest of your day. I hope y'all enjoyed Wildcard Weekend, and let's get ready for that divisional round. Thank you.